Mr. Blank, of course, when it comes to your team, the topic is your backup quarterback, Kirk Cousins. And I know you and he spoke
Yeah.
um, about that conversation. What was conveyed in that conversation that relates to his future with the Falcons?
Well, we spoke for about an hour. He asked to chat with me, and I said, of course. And I told Kirk, started the conversation. I said, look, I'm here to really listen. I took 5 pages of notes, literally 5 pages of notes. I, made some comments back to him, shared some thoughts that I had from a franchise standpoint. It could not have been a more cordial and more respectful conversation. I heard everything you said. I understand everything you said. Um, and he also understood where we were as a team and as a franchise. So, um, but I think it created, clarity about what he hoped for and what his views were and what happened and why it happened, et cetera. And so I think we're in a good place, and we ends up being our backup quarterback. We have the best in the National Football League, which is always a good thing. If we end up making a different decision, we'll move on. But I mean, I just want to reinforce this. He could not be more of a gentleman. I mean, 13th, 14th year going into the NFL this coming year, 6-6 with the Commanders, and then with Vikings, and 1 year with us. But I mean, he's got a great heart, a great spirit. He bleeds the NFL. He's great with teammates, great with fans, very spiritual guy, great family guy. And so I mean, we'll both end up doing the right things for the right reasons, and we'll be fine.
At any point in that conversation, though, did he express that he did not want to be with the Falcons?
Well, I think he made it clear that in his best interest would be to have an opportunity to test free agency and
Okay, what's going on, y'all? It's your dog Toddy checking in. Arthur Blank, he finally speaks here at the annual meetings that the NFL holds every off season. So Arthur Blank finally speaks on Kirk Cousins, as you just heard there doing an interview with Steve White. Shout out to Steve White. Um, we there was a report that there was a meeting. We got this report weeks ago. Kirk Cousins requested a meeting with Arthur Blank. It sounds to me, based on Mr. Blank's statement, that the meeting was conducted via telephone. Arthur Blank said he was there as a listener. He took 5 page worth of notes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What really stood out to me about what Mr. Blank just said is Kirk Cousins essentially asked him to be released. He wanted to be cut by the Falcons. That's really what stood out to me. As you just heard, Arthur Blank said Cousins expressed his desire to test the free agent market. Now, I must say that I'm glad the Falcons decided not to do that, because if you release Kirk, and they may decide to do that later on down the process, I'm not ignorant to that fact. But if you release him when he acts, then you're giving him everything that he wants. Now he can, have his pick of the litter of what team he wants to play for, still get all that money from the Atlanta Falcons, and also go to the next team and only make like the veterans minimum of about $1.2 million. And that really would benefit the next team, because here we would be stuck with a big salary cap implication as the Atlanta Falcons, whereas the next team gets Kirk Cousins and they're paying him peanuts. So really, Kirk wanted to have his cake and his ice cream, and it looks like Arthur Blank and the Falcons said, "Not so fast, my friend. Um, you are under a contract here." And Arthur Blank said, "Listen, Kirk, I respect you. I really like you as a person. You got a beautiful family. You got your faith in the right place. But listen, big dog, this is still a business, bro. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we're in a contract here, dog. You know what I'm saying? Just because things didn't work out don't mean that we're just gonna release you and let the next team pick you up for essentially nothing. And that next team can use you as their starting quarterback or whatever, and they're not paying you anything because there's no salary cap dedication to the next team. So now they could continue to build another team while we are kind of hampered, with your dead cap money that we have to pay. So it looks like Arthur Blank pretty much told him in a nice, direct, and general way, not right now, big dog. Not right now, big dog. We got a contract, and we're going to honor the details of that contract for the time being. So I like that so far from the Falcons. Like, look, obviously things didn't go the way we planned it to go, but look, we're not just going to release you and cut you, and pay you $100 million and then just let you waltz into the next team. No. So I do like that from Mr. Blake. Let's see what else he had to say.
I understood why. But he also understands that we have a contract and we've paid him a great deal of money. He understands that because he's really smart and economically and football wise, certainly. So he understood our position as well. So it was a very
he understood our position as well, and that's just a little bit of what I just said. Like, look, man, we got you for 2 years guaranteed, 90 to 100 million guaranteed. We're just not going to be in a predicament, or we're not in a situation right now. We're just going to cut you, pay you $90 million and just let you go play for another team. Like, no, we're just not going to do it. Now, Kirk, if you wanted to come to the table and say, look, I'm willing to rework my contract to make it easier for you guys financially to release me, I'll give some money back, which Kirk can do. They would essentially have to tear up his contract and write a new one, but Kirk Cousins could do that. So Kirk isn't coming to the table saying, look, let's do something where it benefits you and it benefits me financially. No, Kurt isn't gonna do that. Kurt is about his money, which I don't fault him for, but obviously he's not trying to give any money back.
very cordial, good listening conversation. I did most of the listening. He did some, and we ended up, being in a good place, I think, and we'll see.
Great. So let's get to your young quarterback, Michael Penix.
Yes.
Yeah. Not too far from this time ago last year when you guys drafted him, people are like, what are the Falcons doing? They just signed Kirk Cousins. But now just, in hindsight, kind of just how good of a decision that turned out being. What about now him going into the season as your starter and your expectations of him?
Well, we were in a situation last year, and we had, being really clear amongst the football folks and myself that we definitely didn't want to go into another abyss without a franchise quarterback. We definitely felt Kirk could play for at least 2 years, maybe longer, at a very high level. Had no reason to think that would not be the case. Had every reason to think that would be the case. But we said sometime in the next couple of years, this year, next year, this is last year, we need to draft a quarterback who we can transition to. And other teams have done it successfully in the NFL, like the Packers is a good example. And we want to make sure we did that. I'm a big believer in succession planning, both in business and in terms of football business. So I think our operations folks, our personnel folks, our coaching staff, when they went through all the quarterbacks last year, they picked this guy out.
So Mr. Blank said, I'm a big believer in a succession plan in business and also football. I don't know. It kind of leads me to believe a little bit that, Blank could have had some influence in those meetings. Hey, let's get a veteran quarterback now because I'm tired of being in this boat without a veteran quarterback, since Matt Ryan left here. And also he could have had some influence on, hey, who's out there that we can get in the draft, Michael Penix. And, I know they had their eye on Drake May for a little while. So it sounds like Blank could have had a little, influence or some voice of reason, if we're listening to him based on face value, because it definitely sounds like to me that he is putting himself in the position as a decision maker and a person who had a voice, during this process of Kirk Cousins and also of Michael Penix as well.
out as having incredible talent. I mean, they love the first two guys that were picked last year. We loved them too, Williams and Daniels, both extraordinarily talented players. Um, but we had Penix, it's not that we didn't have Drake May up there too, but we had Penix, as a on talent, somebody very, very high. And I think when he came available, we didn't think he was going to be available at 8. I think the franchise made a decision. Let's draft that quarterback and have him in the room. He'll learn from a great veteran over the next couple of years, and we'll transition to him at the right time, whatever that might be. Turned out to be much quicker than any of us anticipated, but during.
So Mr. Blank is saying they didn't even think that Michael Penix would be there when they did draft him. And once he was there, they, of course, made the decision to draft Michael Penix. And, of course, Michael Penix will be going into the offseason, into training camp, into preseason, of course, the regular season as a starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Will Kirk Cousins still be here once the real games begin in September? That remains to be seen. If I was going to bet on it, I would probably bet that he will eventually get traded. But again, going back to what Mr. Blank said initially, I am glad that the franchise stood firm and pretty much told him, no, we're not going to release you. We're not going to do it. We're not going to pay you all that money we paid you just to release you, and you become a free agent, and you have your pick of the litter of what team you want to go to. So in hindsight, it was a terrible signing, picking up Kirk Cousins. In hindsight, hindsight is 2020, but I do like the resolve that the franchise has shown since it didn't work out. No, we're not going to release you, Kirk. We're not going to do it, or we're not going to do it now when it benefits you. Now, if somebody comes and they offer us a trade package that works for us, yeah. And if you decide to waive your trade clause, yeah, we're more than game to do that. But we're not just going to release you. No. This is a business. You signed the contract, and we signed the contract. And for right now, we're going to stand by our side of the contract, and we expect you to do the same. But yeah, that was Atlanta Falcons owner Arthur Blank. And also, I got to say, man, a lot of times Arthur Blank catches a lot of heat from our fans, and they say, well, Arthur Blank don't know anything about football. I beg to differ. Anytime I hear Arthur Blank talk and speak, he sounds like a guy that's very knowledgeable of football. In this clip also. So just because things that have not gone the way the Falcons have liked them to go in these last 6-7 years with Arthur Blank as the owner doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't know anything about football. He to me, he's very knowledgeable when he speaks. He knows the ins and the outs and everything in between. But yeah, that was our clip. Arthur Blank finally comes out and speaks on the I don't want to say meeting or the conversation that he had with Kirk Cousins. Y'all make sure to comment. Let's get in the comments. Let's talk about it. What do you think about this? Do you like the Falcons' decision not to release Kirk Cousins, which he wanted us to do? Do you think that was a good decision by the Falcons? No, we're not going to release you. Or do you think it was a bad decision by the Falcons? Do you think they should have just washed their hands with Kirk Cousins to release him? Go ahead and get him out the locker room and move on with the Michael Penix era. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let's chop it up. And I'll see y'all next time I see y'all. I'm out of here. Peace.